today in Rich in Relationship.
Do you feel you and your partner are constantly missing each other's priorities, like you're not on the same page? In this episode, we talk about what it takes to realign your marriage. By submitting to the wisdom of the other person, we show trust in them. By submitting to the wisdom of the other person, we allow them to make the mistake. Actually, they do value the same things. They just don't value them in the same order. Prioritizing means to reorder. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship. I'm your host, Rich Heller, and today we're talking about getting on the same page in your marriage. And let me tell you, folks, this is simple but not easy. In the last episode, we talked about how you might be living parallel lives, and we gave you suggestions on how to carve out a little time to begin to get on the same page, to set the intention. This is the episode where we talk about what to do when you start having those talks and you find out, OMG, we just don't see eye to eye on so many things, it seems like. Have you ever felt like you and your partner are running parallel lives? Well, I want you to know I've been there. I know what that's like. It's when you're both busy, you're both trying, but it feels like you're pulling in different directions. How can you come together and find alignment again? How can you be two pulling horses, pulling on the same yoke, pulling in the same direction? We're going to explore how to identify misaligned priorities, or maybe even different priorities. You may think they just don't have your priorities, and how to rebuild shared focus. We're going to punch the importance of unity here, of collaboration and honoring each other's strengths, right? And I want you to get, all right, the reason why I say maybe you're not having the same priorities is in the work that I do with couples, it is super normal for couples to come to me and say, she just doesn't see things the way I do. He just doesn't value the things I value. But actually, they do value the same things. They just don't value them in the same order. Prioritizing means to reorder. For example, in my own life, the current constant reprioritization is we have children who have children. And I'm saying it's time to let go of the big house. It's time to create an environment where our children's children can come together. It's time to move forward to da 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 da. And my partner, my wife, is no, we still need the big house for our children. Our children still haven't gotten to the point where they're ready to let go of. And I get it. Like her strength has to do with the condition of the immediate condition of our family. My strength has to do with the long-term vision. And so what's happening here is our strengths are rubbing up against each other. And I submit myself to her in this instance, but I don't let go of the long-term vision. I just get that for now, things need to be the way that she sees them because this is her area of expertise. And that's a lot of what this episode is going to be about. It's not that she disagrees with my long-term vision. It's not that I disagree with her short-term, what's important for the ecology of our family. It's more that I'm learning to bow to her expertise. And when the time comes, she will allow me to pull us forward into that future. That's what reprioritizing is all about. And that's what we're going to talk about in this episode is how do you get from that place of, no, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, you're wrong. No, it pisses me off when you do that too. All right, I get it. You know about this. And as long as my perspective is honored and we know that there's a space for it and a time for it, I'm good with that. Do you feel like you're speaking different languages when it comes to priorities? Yeah. Do you feel like I'm speaking a different language right now? I do a little bit. I'm mumbling a little. When it comes to priorities, it is common for people to feel like they're speaking a different language. First of all, just like the example I gave you, men are there are brains that evolve in testosterone. That's probably the best way to put it, since people choose their gender today. Brains that evolve in testosterone tend to be more linear and goal-oriented. Brains that evolve in estrogen tend to be more ecological. And so imagine you've got these brains that are wired differently. Estrogen-based brains have more connections between the two lobes. The user of that brain moves between the creative and the rational with rapidity. Testosterone-based brains tend to be shift less connections, shift from one side to the other more slowly, they don't always keep up with the estrogen-based brain. The experience of the testosterone-based brain is that the estrogen-based brain is all over the place. The experience of the estrogen-based brain is that the testosterone-based brain just doesn't see the whole picture. And so naturally, it seems like there are different priorities because the whole perspective on what's going on comes from different places, and the expression of what's going on comes from different places. If you're ever interested, read the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, because that will explain a lot of the communication so that at least you understand it. Bridging the gap between the testosterone brain and the estrogen brain is the challenge of most mainstream marriages. Now, truthfully, the estrogen-based brains are better at it because they've grown up in a culture that was dominated by testosterone-based brains for thousands of years. And so the estrogen-based brains understand the goal orientation far better than the testosterone-based brains understand the ecological orientation. Look at the state of the planet if you want evidence. Our societies are are awesome at moving forward towards a goal without consideration of the impact on the planet. Similarly, testosterone-based brains are awesome at moving towards goals without considering the impact of those movement on the ecology of the family. Estrogen-based brains understand the goal-oriented perspective, have adopted to it, have learned to compete in it. It is the challenge of men to learn to think more like women and to compete in a woman ecological mindset with greater strength, understand and collaborate with it. And truthfully, we all have within us a masculine and a feminine side. We have this because we grow up with typically a father and a mother, or if we're going to talk in broader terms, someone who identifies strongly with masculinity and someone who identifies strongly with femininity, and we internalize this. So it's not a stretch, a major stretch. We have some understanding. It's just that things have been so easy for men, they haven't had to work at it like women have. When was the last time you and your partner talked about what really matters to both of you? That was the where we kicked off the last episode, right? Part of countering these differences in view, strengths, and expression occurs in the realm of talking. It's vital that you have this time. Last episode, we said carve out 5 minutes a day to talk with your partner. The first challenge is going to be to create the safety. Once you've created some safety, then it's going to be to achieve some understanding. Understanding is based in, creating safety and understanding is based in, we've recommended strongly I statements. I feel X when Y because of Z, and Y is situation. The Z is what it brings up from our past or what expectations we had about ourselves, in particular about situations. It's never about the other person. And then there's committed listening, where we say, it sounds like what you're saying is, and one fact and one feeling of what they're saying, so that first you can understand. You don't like the first step isn't to get your priorities lined up when you start talking. The first step is to understand what the frick your priorities are. And so through I statements and committed listening, there's more information on the website, richinrelationship.com. You can, or Google it, you can start to get an understanding, right? So in the last episode, we said spend 5 minutes a day making it safe. In order to continue making it safe, as you're expanding it from 5 minutes to 7 minutes or 10 minutes a day, start to talk about situations and each of your perspective on it without being right, without making the other person wrong, without looking for a victory, without making any changes. All right. The male brain, the testosterone based brain, wants to bring things to conclusion. This is part of stretching as men. We're going to withhold our need, desire, want to move towards a goal, to come to conclusion, to create strategy, to fix things. We're going to withhold it so that we can understand. And if you're the woman and you're having this challenge, get that. Well, maybe you've got some masculine qualities you need to rein in, and you need to give your man some space to express what's going on for him. Open dialogue is going to uncover each partner's true priorities and By not seeking resolution, you can avoid actual power struggles. The power struggles happen in this is what I want, this is what I want. Now, in the last episode, we talked about this a lot. I'm just going to re-emphasize this. You need to feel cared for personally in order to have these conversations. That means you need to be taking care of your mind, body, and spirit. If you're slacking in one of these areas, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not eating as well as you could, if you're not exercising, if you're not practicing some kind of mindfulness meditation or prayer, you're going to have, you're going to come into this a little wonky. Just imagine your battery's not 100%, so you don't come at it 100%. For these conversations, you want to be as well rested, as well fed, as exercised, and as meditated slash prayerful as possible. You want to have these conversations when you are 100%. You do not want to have them at 9 o'clock at night when you're getting ready to go to bed. You may not want to have them at 8 o'clock in the morning. You might, though. Typically, in this household, we had these conversations around 3, 4, 5, or 6. That's not ideal, but it's the only way that we can make it work in terms of our work-life balance. And we make sure that we're feeling 100%. And my wife is very good at saying to me, I can't have this conversation right now. I'm just not all here. Really important to be able to say that. When you have these conversations, all right, let's say you're going to let's stick with the exploration phase. Um, it's so important that you acknowledge one another's strengths. You remember that what I was telling you about the estrogen brain and the testosterone brain, all right? Let's go back to my example of the future of our family here in the Heller household. My wife acknowledges that I am goal oriented and that I am good at getting things done. And she also gets that sometimes I step in it while I'm doing it because I'm not always looking like she is, right? I understand that she is very careful to make sure that the needs of all the participants are met, that she is very careful to understand the developmental needs of the participants over time, that she is very careful. She won't advance into a future unless she knows that the current needs are being met, right? I understand this about her. She understands this about me because we understand each other's individual strengths. I lean into her. She leans into me. Let me give you a today example that's less family oriented. We needed new lights for the garage. I was given complete license for that. It's the garage. It needs to be lit. I'm good at getting it done. As long as it's bright and it works, it's fine. That's my strength. She leans into my strength. The house might need to be painted. I've handed that off to her. I've gotten the painter lined up. I've gotten a price. But when it comes to the color, she's going to make the final decision. I will have input. I might say that goes to me, that goes better with this. But ultimately, I'm going to let her make that decision because she's better at that than I am. We're really clear about what our strengths are and our priorities. By leaning into each other's strengths, if there's a disagreement, ultimately, we each bow to the strength of the other person in that area. We may not do it with full surrender. We may not do it completely relaxed. We wait to see what the end result is. There have been times where I have bowed to her wisdom and it turned out to be not as wise as we both thought. There have been times when she's bowed to my wisdom and it's been a mistake also. And by submitting to the wisdom of the other person, we show trust in them. By submitting to the wisdom of the other person, we allow them to make the mistake. By submitting to the wisdom of the other person, when that mistake is made, I don't say, I told you so, neither did she. Instead, we say, oh, I guess that wasn't what was best. We're going to do it another way. We learn from it. We grow from it. And in the submitting to one another's wisdom, in the surrender, there's a collaborative process by saying, I am willing to allow you to lead. And as the leader, I'm willing to allow you to make a mistake. And when you make a mistake, I will pick you up and dust you off and love you through it and help you fix it. By doing that, we build a stronger, more sustainable marriage. Right? We move from being adversarial to being partners. Right? That's the nature of partnership. And so honoring strengths in conflict is huge. But first, you got to know what your strengths are. So I'm going to suggest to you, here's an action. Sit down and write a list of all of your strengths and all of their strengths. And share this podcast with your partner so that they can do the same, and then sit down and see how your lists match up and talk about it. And talk about it without kicking ass and taking names if at all possible. Talk about it with love. Talk about it with respect and reverence and honor for one another. Honoring your partner's strengths is not about giving up control. It's about building trust and teamwork. Getting on the same page doesn't mean you have to give up your individuality. It's about creating a shared vision. All right. So, in those situations where you're leaning into their strengths, they're not taking you somewhere you don't want to go. They're taking you there in a way that is different than what you thought, but you're still going to the same place. Here's some actionable strategies. All right. We started out by saying have a 5-minute check in conversation with your partner. You're going to want to have on the weekend, once a month, you want to talk about money, right? Money is 70% of marriages. People fight about money. You're going to want to once a month talk about money. Are we spending more than we're taking in? Is the first question. If yes, how do we change that? If you're having if you're in this situation and you want to know what to do about it, I'm not a financial expert, but I highly recommend the teachings of Dave Ramsey. Go to daveramsey.com. Dave Ramsey's got a series of recommendations that will help you clean up your debt quickly and efficiently, help you to rebalance your finances. And every month you're gonna set goals for your finances, maybe according to a Dave Ramsey plan or maybe some other plan that you have, and you're gonna see how are we doing. Now that could be an opportunity to have a fight, or it could be an opportunity to see how you're doing with your goals. Every week you're gonna sit down and talk about the what did we accomplish this week? What are we going to accomplish next week? And this is an opportunity to look at it's like an inventory, a relationship accomplishment inventory. And you're going to celebrate the wins. You're going to learn from the mistakes, right? Because mistakes are necessary and vital to learning. And you're going to create new goals for the coming week together. Every week you're going to have that meeting. That's like really, it could be like a 10-minute meeting. It doesn't have to be super long. You're going to use collaborative tools like shared calendars. You're going to make joint decision making. You're going to lean into each other's strengths to stay aligned. Those are some basic ways to get started on this journey of getting your priorities aligned, leaning into each other's strengths, setting goals, and working together. This, by the way, that was huge what I just gave you. You might want to start with the weekly meetings and then go to the monthly financial meeting like 3 months later. Or if your finances are up the creek right now, you might want to start with the financial meeting and just work on that and maybe have weekly meetings about finances and then work the other things in. Don't try and fix everything all at once. And remember that it's not about convincing your partner that your priorities are right. It's about hearing each other and finding common ground and getting that you want the same things, just maybe not in the same order. And as long as you get the same things, the order may not matter. Normalizing priorities that are in a different sequence is a natural part of any relationship. It's part of the game. It's part of every relationship. You're going to do it at work. You're going to do it in groups that you're in. You're going to do it in any community you're a part of, and you're going to do it in your marriage and your family. Unity in marriage is the whole game here. Not perfect unity, because you're both changing and growing, but staying unified. When you're on the same page, everything feels more manageable. The reason why I'm saying weekly meetings is the page, you're going to get off page a little bit. You're each going to go off into your individual practices. You're both going to develop and grow and bring a new you every week to that communication. And the trick is to get the marriage realigned to the new yous and to get the new yous tuned into the marriage. That's what makes that communication so important. By honoring each other's strengths and focusing on your shared goals, you're building a partnership that can thrive in any circumstance. I'm Rich Heller, and we're going to start a new series. Looks like it's going to be for men who want to save their marriage because there's a lot of that going on right now. Ladies, this is going to be helpful for you too. It's going to help you to understand why your man is so wackadoodle And I'm gonna make sure that even though this is for men saving their marriage, that women this is helpful for you if you've got a guy who's way out of sync. In the meantime, have a wonderful day and an awesome tomorrow.